There's a story told about in the shtetl, there was a malamed, a teacher that was teaching his students about many different things. He's teaching them Chumash and Gemara. He's also teaching them halacha. While he's teaching them halacha, he was teaching them the dinim of how to get dressed in the morning, that one should put on his right side first, and then his left. Lefties do opposite, but on the general term. And when it comes to the shoes, you put the right shoe on, you put on the left shoe, you tie the left shoe, and then you tie the right shoe. Unfortunately, in that shtetl, not everyone over there was of the frumest how they should be. And there's one particular parent that when the child came home and naturally acting according to the way the teacher instructed, that means putting on the right shoe and then putting on the left, and then tying the left shoe and then only then doing the right shoe. Mother looks at this and says, "What's this all about? Why don't you just put on normally? You put on your right shoe, you tie it. You put on your left shoe, you tie it." So the kid says, "Vaseis, what do you mean? That's what I was taught in Cheder. That you put on the right shoe first, then you put on the left, then you tie the left shoe, and that's because naturally people put on tefillin on their left hand, and to give cover to the left hand, tie the left shoe, and then you put on, then you tie the left shoe,
the right shoe,
then you tie the right shoe." So the mother says, "This is ridiculous. This is what they teach our kids in school. Such ridiculous things. We have to get rid of this teacher." And sure enough, this parent wouldn't stand still and pushed, and unfortunately they got rid of the teacher. Okay, they got rid of the teacher. The teacher is Aishmaim Yid, he learns for himself, okay. But this child, as we said, he wasn't from the best of homes. And of course, after such a way of upbringing, that anything that has to do with Frumkeit and Yerushalayim is outrageous. So he wasn't careful with that. Went further. Till, unfortunately, he goes off the Yiddish Weg all the way. And he goes amongst the Goyim. And Rahman Islam, he goes to, lo and behold, a school how to become a galach, to become a priest. Years go on, he learns how to be the galach, and day arrives, they're appointing him to be a galach, Rahman Islam. This kid. He goes to the room to get dressed in his quote-unquote honorable clothing, puts on his clothing, and he puts on his shoes. And naturally he does. First the right foot, then the left. He ties the left shoe, ties the left. He thinks to himself, what's going on here? What am I doing? Why don't they get dressed normally? Why don't they tie my right shoe first and then my left? Why am I doing this? He starts thinking to himself. He says, whoa, 1 second. And he starts getting a flashback of what happened when he was a child in Cheder with the Malamed, that his mother put pressure that they should kick out this Malamed. Why? And he remembers that the Malamed told him that we put on, this is what Jews do. We put on the right shoe, first we put on the left shoe, we tie the left shoe because of tefillin, and then we move back to the right. He said, ooh, I'm Jewish. What am I doing here? Becoming galach? Becoming priest? He said, okay, no. He right away tied his shoes and ran. And he ran away and he went back and he became from again, left the scene. In this week's Parsha, we start off, V'haya Eikev Tishmun. The Parsha starts off, V'haya Eikev Tishmun, and it will be when you listen to what Hashem has to say, because you will listen to the Mishpatim, Ushmat v'asisim oisam, you will guard to keep them, Ishamar Hashem alekecha lechos habris v'sachesed asher nishbala v'secha. So the Eibishter promises you that He'll keep the covenant and the kindness that He swore that He did to our forefathers. Rashi right away sees that the word Eikev is not so common. I'm not saying not common at all, but not so common to be Eikev as in because. He puts a point to understand why does the pasuk use the word Eikev, and he says like this. V'haya Eikev Tishman says Rashi im a mitzvahs kalis sha'adam dash ba'kevav Tishmun, then the following part of the pasuk, V'shamar Hashem l'cha sabris v'chesed. That if you'll hear, but not if you'll hear regularly, you'll hear even the mitzvahs that are in your heel. What does the mitzvahs of the heel? There's certain mitzvahs that people throw under their heel. There's mitzvahs that people trample with their heels. And those mitzvahs, if you listen to those, then I know you're really good. And then the ultimate geula is going to be thanks to those kind of mitzvahs. What's a regular of these kind of mitzvahs that we could, like some examples to see what are certain mitzvahs of such that that naturally people are not as careful. I'm not saying people aren't, but naturally it's not so strict, and how to make them tishmun, that we should actually hear them and follow, and not just follow stamazay, but in a way that it should be penetrating within us. In Tavshin Yud Aleph, 1951, there was a mashpia. A mashpia, that means someone that instructs the boys in the yeshivas, especially according to whichever derech they come from. They're not just a magachir of Gemara and Lamdis, but they rather give hadracha based on materials. And Chsidish yeshivas and Chsidis. So there was this great mashpia named Reb Wolf Greenlass. I don't know if any of you heard about him. He was a Mekubal as well. He did in Kabbalah. And there's different times, like there was times of Kiddush Levana stories, it was cloudy, and the Rabbi said that Moshe Rabbeinu, how did they do Kiddush Levana in the desert? He took some kerchief, and the clouds moved aside, and he actually had a kerchief with him, and he did it one time while the Rabbi did it.
They said that Baba Sali did it in Morocco.
Yeah, but I'm just saying in front of 770 this happened.
This and the cloud.
So this rabbi, as a young man, did it as well. The Rabbi told him, next time don't do it in public, but he was not, he was able to scoop out on a bacher, he was able to look at a bacher, what's about Shishma Shalamita last night? he was a mashpia in the yeshiva, till he just passed away like 10 years ago. So he compiled a booklet. I put the Sharblat, the cover page of that booklet. This is of the third edition. Yitzhak Chachma doesn't have the first edition, but this is of the third edition. It's called Korf L'Kutei Dinim. Korf L'Kutei Dinim, what he did was, he compiled all these kind of mitzvahs that naturally people are more laxed about, throw it under their heels, as we emphasized, and try to create a geschmack with it. What did he do? Let's take this one, Negavasser.
Which one? On the bottom?
Yeah. I'm sorry if the print is too small. Just I try to compact everything.
Yiddish. You're going to read it in Yiddish.
I'm going to say the synopsis of the matter, because I'm not going to keep you guys retranslate. Some things I'll read and translate. Some things I'll brief it up for you. He writes like this. This is meant for the average gasmensch, layman in the street in those days in the 50s. They should understand this as easy as possible. That's why he wrote in Yiddish. Those days, many of you could tell me that they spoke. A lot of the people in the street spoke Yiddish at the time. Unfortunately, it's dwindling down now, but Yiddish was in the rise in those days. So he writes like this: that about Negavasser, you have to be careful every morning, every hand. It should be 3 times, and first the right hand, and then the left, and not to walk 4 amas without the Negavasser. And then he says to be careful. He quotes Shulchan Aruch, but he makes it an easy language for the average person to understand. And that not to touch anything before washing Negavasser. And he says, especially women that prepare the food, they should extra be careful. That's the halacha. On the next side, you see on the next thing. There he brings more reasoning. Also from Shulchan Aruch, as you see the Maramakim towards the end, he says, Hatam Til Sidayim Shachris, so it's explained in Zoyar, and so to Gemara to take over the Ruach Tuma that dwells in the hands, because when our neshama leaves our body and then we wake up, it remains on the hands, and to wash off the Tuma. And then he goes on into more details, and then he brings on the bottom a vart. A vart he took then from the Rebbe Rayatz, the Frierdiker Rebbe, and he brings from there a more vort thing, that the hands gerachtum, which that is world hanachas ha'olam, influences of the world, the world standards, quote unquote, that the world decided that we have to act in such a way. So the idea of the Negavasar, the neshama, so to say, of the Negavasar, is to eliminate and to remove from ourselves all those, to do it because so says the world, so claims the world that this is what it's meant to be done, and therefore we rinse off all those negative elements of ourselves and we tune in for higher things. And that's the idea of Netilas Yadayim, removing all natural character traits that we would do because of so says the world, to remove them from ourselves and to be in a Halakha spirit, in a Holy Spirit. So, and therefore we do it slowly, first to the right, then we move off to the left, and then we move back. Slowly take off those character traits of the world.
Negative,
meaning negative or
negative
quote unquote standard, even mellow negative, meaning, the Welt sagt, the world says we have to act such and such, and it's not according to Torah necessarily. But so therefore, to slowly remove ourselves and take it off, rinse ourselves off from worldly ideals and to tune into Halakha, that's the idea of Negavasar. So here you see an example. He goes through many things. He goes through things of Shabbos or tzitzis to be behidur, and why is there a reason to do behidur, and the size should be appropriate, the amal aman. He goes through it's still in print till today. They reprinted it like 4 times already, 5 times, and just to create that, to infuse the nation, infuse people with the information and a varmkeit, a warmth to these mitzvahs, which naturally would be Negavasar, and take it more seriously, and to take it more within a neshama, and therefore awaken within ourselves the chayis in those kind of mitzvahs. This next page, on this Kovetz was zeicha to an unusual thing. The Rebbe would usually write to people that ask the Rebbe for haskama. The Rebbe said that Tzemach Tzedek already instituted that Beis Harav, meaning the rabbinic family, the Rebbe never quoted himself as a Rebbe, but as the family. That he would never quote himself, I'm the Rebbe. Very unoften do we see that the Rebbe would put the finger straight to him, and it was very uncommon. Usually he would even say everything, the Rebbe the Shver, the father-in-law. But here the Rebbe would say, the Beis Harav, meaning the rabbinic family, the Rebbe family, are not to give haskamas. Very unoften did the Rebbe give haskamas, and including
haskamas for what?
For the Sfarim, for Sfarim.
Chiddushei Torah
for any Chiddushei Torah that people asked the Rebbe, give a lot of, we don't do that.
Why not?
He said one.
He was told by the Tzemach Tzedek.
Rabbinical family would not make haskama.
Why? The Rebbe didn't say.
Every sefer would come
No,
out.
I have my own observation.
You have Chiddushim, you have to have it.
No, so
not to have nothing?
No, not to print Chidushim, to get to approve of Sfarim. Approbations, not to give approbations. And I have my own observation. I don't want to make it public, but that's what I think. There's a mimer of the Rebbe discussing. It says, "Hashemayim kisi va'aretz adayim ragli." The heaven is my chair, and the earth, meaning the basement, is my footstool. So the Rebbe explains that there's 2 kinds of yid. There's Shemayim Kisi. Those are the people that take things the way they're above, and they can't see the world in its specifics. They're too looking at it from a spiritual perspective. They can't paskin because they see everything in the most halakha way, but they can't come to the Pa'al Mamish. Therefore, however, the people that are more the practical, but they learn the Torah in a thorough way, they're the ones that become the Rabbanim, that they paskin on day-to-day life. Seemingly, my own boich svara, as we say, the Rabbeim are more Hashemayim Kisi personality, looking how everything's in a complete spiritual plane, and therefore they cannot, say that this should be played on earth because in the heavens, you know, like they take it in a very lofty way, and to say that this should be practiced here in this world, halavai, the world should be fitting to go that way, and therefore, it's my own observation. Take it or leave it.
He's not a posik. In other words, people specialize as poskim to make halachic decisions.
Yeah.
Not the Rebbe. The Rebbe probably was not his specialty.
No,
he had
although
a different type of specialty.
Although the Rebbe did paskin different things the Rebbe did stand up for. Not mamish paskin, but he brought to attention. He wrote to the Moshe, for instance, like 1 second, we have to make a tachlis. Like for instance, the boats that went, the Israeli boats, the tzim boats that went traveling on Shabbos. The Rebbe said, I have to break my nature. I have to bring to your realization what's going on here. There's many isurim going on. Chil Shabbos, even drinking a cup of water on those boats is asur.
The Jewish people do.
So therefore, to save the Jewish people, and he knew boats, as we know that the Rebbe
traveled from Europe to America.
Not just that. When he came to America, he worked in the Navy Yard. And he engineered many of the USSs around that were there at the time of the war. He knew what boats are, and he said it's pure Chil Shabbos every step of the way, and therefore, since Yidden are doing it, we cannot have Yid travel and be none from that boat. Okay, let's not get carried away. So the Rebbe wrote approbation to this kuntris, although it seems very simple, but the Rebbe goes into the importance of why this sefer is, and the Rebbe quotes. I brought the quotes of the Zohar and the Medrash that the Rebbe quotes. The Zohar says like this. David HaMelech says, Lama ira b'meira, why should I be afraid in time of not good? Avein akeva yisubeni. The sins of my heels surround me. Says the Zohar that those mitzvahs that we step over the heels, those are the ones that make me in trouble. He says like this. It says in the pasuk, "Hay mishchaya oven bechavle ashav kavois hagola chatah." That oy to those people that pull those thin ropes, which that refers to the light averis. Those easy averis. What is that already? Those kind of averis that afterwards causes the thick rope should fall upon them, meaning that they get nichshal in the big averis. So basically, the Zohar is saying like this: that when we're laxed about light, quote unquote, light averis, ultimately that causes that the thick ropes, meaning the thick averis, the harsh averis, become our standard as well. And therefore, it's to be careful with light, lax mitzvahs because they pull into that, and that's what David HaMelech refers to in Kapitel Mamtes. Lo me'ira b'meira avein akeva yisubeni, and this is what our pasuk is. So too says the Tanchuma that there's light mitzvahs that people are not careful with. Tells us David HaMelech, Rasha, listen up. Why should I be careful in times that don't look good, whether it's in Gehenim Rachman al-Islam or Yom Adin, or what should I be careful? Avein keva yisubeni. The mitzvahs of the heels, they're the ones that are around me, and that's why I should be careful. And Tachum, it's on this pasuk actually. It says, and this is what Ekev Tishmon. They should be careful with the light mitzvahs, because with this we will be cautious not to fall into that trap, to ultimately. That's really what David HaMelech is worried about. He says, harsh mitzvahs I can be careful with. It's a strict mitzvah. I'll be careful with that. It's the petty mitzvahs, quote unquote, that we are not careful with, and that's where I'm worried about. And
that can lead to do the averis chamuris.
And also, that's the things that we're not careful with, and that's what we're going to be slammed hard for.
Held accountable for.
Yeah. True, David HaMelech himself is not that way, as we see in Kapitel Yutas. He says, Yishamrim Ekev Rav, that the Ekev mitzvahs I am very careful. But he's speaking about not being enthusiastic and not being all involved, not doing with a chayes, and more doing it like routine, doing the mitzvahs. And the same thing on the negative side. We bring here from Kuntras HaAvodah of the Rebbe Rashab. He speaks very sharp about not looking where you're not supposed to. And he says, the famous Chazal that Eina v'liba treis asura da'avera. The eyes and the heart are the two brokers, so to say. They're the two middlemen to sin. Sin is distant, we're removed. Comes along, the eye tunes you in to the negative. He makes you look to the negative place. So by gazing, and especially paying attention to negative things, especially what we're not supposed to, it could influence the neshama, because eyes create a tiny, we know when we look at a beautiful picture, we're mesmerized, we're catching our breath, we're all excited about the thing. The eyes cause excitement to the thing, and therefore we have to be very careful what we look at. And therefore, and he says, someone that's constantly doing avodas Hashem, he could help himself not to be so caught up with it, or when he does, he gives it a wash away and that's it. However, a person that's not so durganim, not so penetrated in avodas Hashem, he gets influenced by his sight and it could turn him very, very low. So therefore we have to be very careful. So how do we get careful with things that come naturally our way? We naturally throw them under our heels. And how do we get a chayes to not just do it like laissez-faire, but rather enthusiastic? So we know that the Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, you probably heard about it before. Tzemach Tzedek was a Yosim before his Upshanish. His mother passed away when he's just about 3. There's a whole story about that. And the Alter Rebbe, his grandfather, the Baal Tanya, adopted him. And he took him in and he brought him up as an only child, and he taught him and he guided him on his way. One day, when the Tzemach Tzedek was a young child, he then asked his grandfather a question. We say every morning in Vayiachar, Akedas Yitzchak, Eikev asher shamayta v'keli. Because you listen to me. Why does he use, what's the word Eikev mean? How does that fall in? He was a 3-4-year-old child. What does Eikev have to do? So the Alter Rebbe tells him like this, that through the Nisayon of the Akedah, through it penetrated Avraham Avinu thoroughly, till it reached to his heel. 50 years later, the Tzemach Tzedek told his Chassidim, he was already the Rebbe then, and he told them that this is what it means. That the Eikev means the Piyata hot hurt.
The what?
Piyata. Piyata means a heel.
A heel, oh.
So he was so durganim, and he's so penetrated with his serving the Eibishter, that his heel listened to the Eibishter, not that his head. There's someone that could learn about the greatness of Hashem, and so you believe in a cup, it stayed in the head. His head is serving the Eibishter. What's about his heel? With the Nisayon of Akedah, Avraham Avinu, not only his head heard the Eibishter, not only his heart served the Eibishter, his heel served the Eibishter.
Oh, that's nice.
And this story was then related by the Rebbe Maharash to the Rebbe Rashab. The Rebbe Rashab put on tefillin when he was a fairly young age. The Rabbeim did not, by us in Chabad, I don't know, in all circles, we put on tefillin 2 months before our bar mitzvah. The Rabbeim would put on when they were 11 years old, just for Shema. But they would put on, they already had gufnaki, they knew how to take care of themselves. And at 11 years old, they put on tefillin, just for Shema.
How he can be a Rabbi when he is 11 years old?
No, meaning their fathers would put on them.
Oh, for the son?
Yeah, and the one that would become Rebbe naturally, they were very unique. They had Mochen di Gadlut at early stages. They were never minors, put it that way. And the Rebbe Rashab was putting on tefillin, and his father gives him a bracha, you should be a Yer Shemayim, a God-fearing person. And he says, you know what it means to be a Yer Shemayim? You have to make that your whole body should serve the Eibishter. You know what that means? He says your body has to be clear. You know what clear means? See-through. That every organ of your body should be penetrated with what Hashem wants from it. And the Rebbe Shab trained himself. There was a point that the way he washed Nagvasser, his brother asked him, why do you wash this way? He says, since Father gave me this bracha, I've made my body operate according to Shulchan Aruch. It must be, it says so. And he followed the Ksav from the Rosh that says exactly how we're supposed to wash, and that's how he washed. He said, his whole body, his whole being became a vehicle for halacha, a vehicle for Ratzon Hashem. That's what I mean. So then he explained, that's what the Zayda meant, that's what Alter Rebbe meant, that the piyata dehert, every organ of the body was penetrated with Ratzon Hashem. So how do we do this by ourselves? We're not Rebbes. How do we accomplish this? There's a story told that a chassid was once in the capital city in Russia. I'm not sure if it was Petersburg or Moscow. It's not going to ruin the story just to give over, the exact location. But 200 years ago, there was a chassid in Russia. It was freezing cold. Anyone here from Russia? Russia could be 40 below zero. No joke. He's going outside, it's Russian winter. And he sees a soldier standing on his post. And he sees that the soldier is so devoted to his job, you know what happened? His feet froze to the ground. Amazing. He's such a devoted soldier, and he's not trying to budge. He knows that he's here for the king, and he's frozen to the ground. He's being all on the spot. He's all inspired by what he sees. All of a sudden he sees the general come by, gives one glance on the soldier, and he gives him a slap in the face. Why? The chassid goes to the general, why did he slap him in the face? He's doing his job. It's 40 below, he's standing there. His foot froze to the ground. You know what the general answers? That's the problem. He said, if the oath that he gave the king when he swore, when he was under oath for the job, would have burned in himself, he would not freeze to the ground. He would stay fire. He would not freeze to that ground. It could be 40 below zero, he would not freeze to the ground. Says the chassid, I learned my lesson for my entire life. I have to serve the Eibishter with a fire, and that will make that my heel would not freeze to the ground. What is that? So we know that we're also under oath. I'm sure everyone here in the Tanya Shir usually hears the Tanya Shir. The first parak of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says, Mashbiyim oisei ti tzadik v'al ti rasha. He quotes the Gemara in Nida, right? That we're sworn into it. We're sworn to be a tzaddik and not to be a rasha. This is not just for our lifetime, it's every single day. As we say every morning, Maida'ani l'fanecha, Malachai v'kaim shachzarta b'neshmasi, Chamna Rabbi Munasecha. That every morning this starts from scratch. And we could reconnect. How do we reconnect? So it says in Sfarim that through Torah and through Tefillah, a person connects to the Eibishter. Why so? So through Torah we know, it says in regards to the Mishkan, and it says, they should take from me truma. So Chassidus quotes the Yalkut. The Yalkut Shemini says, what does it mean, v'yikhu li truma? Doesn't it take from me truma? The Eibishter doesn't need your donations. Li oisi, that when you take me through Torah, which Torah is Torah Mem, is given by the 40 days of Har Sinai, and also Tefillah, we'll get into that in a minute. Oisi atam loichim, you take me, you learn Torah, you take me. You bring the Chachmas Hashem within you. We'll get into maybe. We can't get into right now all the details, but because Hu v'Chachmas Echad, Hashem and His Chachma is one, and you naturally take in the Eibishter in you every time you learn Torah. If you learn Torah with Torah Lishma, especially when you do Lishmi, as you emphasized before.
Is it more that we're doing mitzvahs for rent, or is it more that we're doing mitzvahs to fix up the world and make it a better place?
So the mitzvah is Litzarfes Abriyos, to refine the creation. Mitzvahs is to make that the divine lights that's within every mitzvah should penetrate this world and therefore make it a better place, meaning the Geula is the better place, which we all wish for, and that is that the great lights of which are up above, which are concealed from us, which we only know about it from all this farm that we have here, will actually penetrate the world, and that's the better place that we all wish for. And now we just do the mitzvahs and we put them. And one of the Rabbeim gave the analogy as in a bank account. We put in the bank account. We have the key, but we don't have the right to open it yet. But when we open the bank account, we have it all there. We have it all installed for us. Okay. So about tefillah. Tefillah is the same thing that we connect to Hashem. What is tefillah? So, of course, this is very widely explained in Chassidus, what tefillah is all about. And I was trying to get as much material to be able to explain, but Ashkacha Pratis, someone brought to me a very interesting thing. This is from a column from a mashpia, meaning, once again, a Chassidic mentor, from Warsaw. He was also a secretary of the Frierdiker Rebbe. His name was Rabbi Yecheskel Fagin, known as Rabbi Chacha Fagin, and he unfortunately was killed by the Germans. But this was like a few years before he was killed. He was killed in Tavshin Beis, 1942, and this is from 1936. He wrote this column explaining what tefillah is all about. And he explains like this, that we look in church mitzvahs at tefillah, which is a very deep understanding and davening from the Tzemach Tzedek, which he wrote, which was discovered when he was 15 years old under his pillow, his writings. We won't get into that right now. He wrote a whole analogy about tefillah for over 45 chapters about tefillah. Everyone could see it in the back of Derech Mitzvah. And he starts off by saying, what is tefillah d'oraisa or tefillah d'Rabbanan? Is a tefillah a biblical requirement, or is it d'Rabbanan? And he says that basically what it is like this, that when you're in a mitzukah, when you're in a tough time, it's the d'oraisa to turn to the Eibishter and know the Eibishter is the whole source of where you're going to get your salvation, and turn to Hashem. That's the mitzvah min ha-Torah. The nusach ha-tefillah, 3 times a day, all these details, that's the Rabbanah. And then he goes on explaining what is davening. So the thing is like this: why did the Chachamim institute this idea of davening? Isn't the idea of the mitzvah of the Chachamim to make a siyag, boundaries? Why is it all these? What's the idea of tefillah? So he goes into the idea of tefillah is to connect to Hashem. How do you connect to Hashem? We see that you should know that you're standing before Hashem and you can request all you want. What did the Chacham connect to tefillah? Kriya Shema. What's Kriya Shema? Shema means pay attention, listen up. Hashem Alikeinu Hashem Echad. Hashem, with all that Hashem is the only real being, and this is what you should be seeking to be connected to, etc. And how do you get yourself inspired to that? So therefore they give us Birchas Krishma. Birchas Krishma tell us, look, this is the great malachim and everything, which, as we know, that even our animal soul that's within us, even our Yitzhara, is sourced in these malachim. And they serve the Eibishter. When you go into a palace and you see all these dignitaries bowing to one individual, you know, this is the one. So all the malachim ma'ila, all the great angels from above, they bow to this one being, Hashem. This is the one that you should turn to. And so why are you getting me caught up with all different things in this world, with all these worldly affairs? We should be connecting to Hashem, which your source itself, your nefesh b'hamis, your source itself requires it. And if that's and then we go into Avos Olam, how Hashem loves His Jewish people and He installs within us our love to Him, and how that we can connect on a personal level. So we're all creating that kind of feeling towards the Eibishter, and then even more than that, the Chacham saw that wasn't enough. It started telling us about we have to do Psachya d'Zimra. What's Psachya d'Zimra? The Kapitel Achtim that tells us how Hashem created this world, and there's so many details and all these details, and we should get excited. We have to get excited about when we're connected to Hashem. We have to know who this great Eibishter is that we have appointment with. And then when things dwindle down even more, that's where Chassidus came in. Chassidus told us that before davening, we have to learn about the Eibishter, learn about Hashem's greatness, and therefore, when you learn about Hashem's greatness, and you should also think about it, take it in your mind, that's how you make it more real to you, and then you're going to daven with more of you're going to be more excited about serving the Eibishter. And this is actually based on a Psachya of the Ramah. The Ramah says in Orach Chaim Tzedek Ches that before davening, a person should, it's based on the Mishnah actually, should penetrate about the greatness of the Eibishter and the lowness of being, and therefore that's what's going to cause him to want to connect to the Eibishter. And the question is also always
by Psachya d'Zimra, you say.
About Psachya d'Zimra.
Or
Or if that's not enough for you, a Maimer Chassidus.
What?
A discourse of Chassidus will give you that inspiration too. It'll tell you about the greatness of the Eibishter, and therefore you feel that connect.
That do before Psachya.
Yeah.
I mentioned that you can have too much of a good time. You can go to too many ball games or too many amusement parks, but you can't do mitzvahs. You can't serve Hashem. How are you?
How do you make that while you're in the amusement park, you want to do a mitzvah and with a bread? That's if you daven first. That once you have a hafta Hashem lekecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol moedecha, and through that that you feel that the Torah is given to you today. And then you'll be enthusiastic to do so. But if it just starts with V'lachta Chavaderech, it's very hard to create that enthusiasm. You have to back up a little bit and warm up before you go there. And the famous question that the Mezrishit Magid asks, why are we commanded V'havtas Hashem Elokecha? How could you command someone to love? Could you command you to feeling? You should love.
You have to have the emotion. You don't have it.
So what do? I command you should love. Love, let's go, love. How do you love? So the answer is Shema Yisrael. Think, learn about it. Hear. Oh, there's a grace Eibishter. Hafta. How do you grace Eibishter? Go through the Svarim. Read it. Learn it. Take it in. Oh, then automatically the Hafta will come automatically.
That's longer than the davening.
No, but if you do Shema V'Sbenata, you have to do a Chanel Tefillah. You have to think about it and take it in, absorb. The Chassidim had thought for 3 hours straight. No, today, 45 years ago, there was a Chassid that, after learning for many hours, he thought it over 3 hours straight. And that's what got him cooking, and that's how he could daven 7 hours average in mitvach, average Wednesday in middle of the afternoon. He davened, because davening is a davening. When the davening is a davening, then every day is a whole different thing. Okay, and then there's another question that the Tzemach Tzedek asks, why was it only commanded in Chumash Dvarim? Because Dorish Deya, the Dor Midbar is called Dor Deya. They had it on their own. They saw Likus. They were there by Matan Torah. They didn't need his bonus. The Dor Shenichnas La'aretz, they need his bonus. They need the Shema Yisrael to create V'Havtas Hashem Elokecha. I'll just quicken up because we're a little behind. And this has to be taken and penetrated within ourselves. As we know, Bruya Meir's wife once met a Talmud, and he was learning very softly. So she said, it says, Arucha b'koyol l'shmura, that if it's penetrated in everything, that's when it's preserved. That when you learn with a life, you learn with a voice, then it'll penetrate your whole being, and then it's going to be preserved. And the Alter Rebbe in Perek Lamed Zayin connects it with Tefillah as well. That if we daven with a sort of brand, it doesn't have to be, not everyone has to see you, but within your heart, you're fully enthusiastic to your davening, then it's going to be preserved and it will be lasting for after davening. As the Rebbe Shah brings out that the whole idea of davening is to influence our everyday activity. And by davening, you can see in the quote over that it's not just to learn and know concepts, but rather it helps us take it in. It's a whole long thing over here. We won't get into that, but just by penetrating with the thinking of the greatness of the Eibishter, and then practicing it by davening, that brings that our midas change through our daily life. And as there's a famous Chassidic saying, the tachlis of davening is the after davening. The whole purpose of the davening is that the after davening should be totally different.
The what?
The tachlis, the ultimate purpose of the davening is the after davening. What's going to be later? The impact of the davening. Because the Rishim, as we know, that says, the halavai she'ispala adam kol yom kulei. Halavai, a person should daven throughout the whole day. But what does it mean? A person davening the whole day?
What's going to be with Talmud Torah?
So over there it says actually Tarasim Mishtameres. That because the Chassidim, their Torah is preserved. That even they learn a little bit, it's more, they take it in more than a person that learns all day. But that's not the point. Here we're saying, they don't have to daven throughout the whole day. They have to daven And then the whole day is influenced by that davening.
And your learning is even better.
Yeah. And,
That's the most important.
and through that, but how do we get koyach for that? It's not just that we pick up a sefer and the sefer happens to be speaking about the greatness of the Eibishter. That can help. I'm not saying that. But even more, through the material that's given to us through Roy Yisrael, shepherds of Yidden, which Roy Yisrael, which are Rebbes, they give material for us to learn. A Roy Yisrael is not just his own that we come to ask for brachas. Yes, they give brachas, they have connections to the Eibishter, and they could ask and they could demand Tzaddik Goyzer Kadosh Baruch Hu Mekayim. But that's not what they're there for. What they're really there for is to feed us how to connect to Eibishter. Moshe Rabbeinu is called Raya Mehemna. What does Raya Mehemna mean? It can either mean faithful shepherd, or Raya Mehemna, the shepherd of faith, the shepherd of Emunah. How did he shepherd Emunah to Klal Yisrael? He taught them Das and Holocaust. He taught them how to connect to the Eibishter. Every step of the way, he's teaching them how to connect to the Eibishter. And that's how he taught his whole nation. And the Zohar says, "Ispashtusa de Moshe, b'chol dor v'dora." There's expansion of Moshe every single generation, which their job is to connect Klal Yisrael to the Eibishter. Through the... So that makes that, it impacts even the daily life. As we know, the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, and his brother the Razah would play Rebbe Chassid as a child. And one time the Rebbe Rashab asked his older brother, he was the Rebbe, but the older brother was not the Rebbe. So he asked the older brother as a child, which the older brother was very particular in what's it called, in Diktuk. He says, why in Moed Ani do we say Bechemla Rabba Menasech? There's a dot over there. What's the dot doing there? Between Bechemla and Rabba. And then when it comes to Chemla Gdoila V'Seirach HaMalta, there's no dot.
But the dot is over here in between.
Yeah. Why is there a dot? He said there's times that's with. So he said, no, you give me the answer. He says like this. It's all with the little dot. It starts before the dot, and through davening, it circulates the body. It penetrates within the body. You take the dot, and that dissolves within the body. It penetrates in the body. So when the Rebbe Marash, his father, heard that from the back door, he told his teacher, teach whatever you want, but don't ruin him. He's such a pure kid. Please, keep it pure. There's another story with the Rebbe Rashab and his brother, the Razah. And right, I understand. It's a word. It's a drur. He was a 4-year-old kid, but the pureness of the kid, take that idea.
No, it's Valdik. I'm just saying.
No, that's not the pshat poshut. No. And there's another word that when he was a kid, I'll try to be very, very quick because when he was a kid, he also asked his brother, the Razal, they played Rebbe Chassid when they were 4 or 5 years old. He said, Reb Zalman Aaron.
He was not the Rebbe.
No. Rebbe Shab was 5 years younger than him, but he was the Rebbe. The Tzemach Tzedek already decided by his bris that he's the Rebbe.
By the second one.
Yeah. He was a total different person. He was by birth, he was Meshich Mi'umayla. You see what kind of Vartlach he said when he was 4 years old. You know. Then he asked his brother, you know,
Who played the Rebbe? Who played the Rebbe?
his brother, because he was older. He gave his respect to his brother. He says, what is a neshama? He says, a neshama is fire. He says, if neshama is fire, why don't you get burnt? Why don't you burn me? He says, because you're also fire, so fire doesn't burn fire. So we have that fire within, that's the neshama, and we have to let it circulate. Our body, that's by chayes and davening, and that makes that after davening, that even the piatas, even the heels, penetrate with that. Just for the idea of a story about this story that we just mentioned now, the Rebbe Rashab and the Razah saying that the Yiddish fire, it's interesting, the Rebbe quoted the story a few times. One of the times the Rebbe quoted the story was in Shabbos Zocher, 1989, Tov Mem Tes. And in Shabbos Zocher, I think I have it here, the Rebbe quoted another sikha where he went more detail with the story, and the Rebbe said Shabbos Zocher Mem Tes. That year Purim, there's actually there was a fire in one of the homes in Crown Heights. And it was Matzah Purim. It's interesting that Purim was the Rebbe, usually after 1963, because of a certain incident, the Rebbe made a gzeira, Chassidim should not take too much l'chaim. But that year Purim, the Rebbe says, is the exception. Even though it's Matzah Purim, whoever didn't do Ad L'Yada Kipshuta should do Ad L'Yada Kipshuta. Okay. There's a family in Crown Heights that the Sudas Purim they actually celebrated here in Flatbush. They have a relative around the bend. They came back at 12 o'clock, and 1:30 a fire broke out in their home. Fire breaks out 1:30. The mother doesn't know who's home, who's not home, because the older kids in the family went to Febrein and celebrate the remainder of Purim. But she knew that the three younger ones were there. The fire breaks out, the mother calls out all the kids, time to run out. They all run out. Besides, for one was missing. One child was missing. She tried to go back in. No response. So she bangs on her neighbor's door, please call the fire department. And they call the fire department, and they come to the house, and at first they go in and out, they say there's no child. They say, no, look again, please. I'm telling you there's a child there. And they go, and one of the firemen, actually he was a tall person, he was 6'5" or something, he swept his legs under one of the beds, and sure enough, he feels a body. He takes out the body, charcoal covered body. They take off the suit, and they see it's
alive.
No pulse, no breath, and he starts resuscitating and everything. I happened to see the medical records a little later on. I was shown 2:48 was the first respiratory response. The fire started at 1:30. 2:48 was the first respiratory response. Before that, it was 00. It's marked there as 00. It actually says that before FDNY arrived, it was cardiac arrest 3 to 5 minutes before they came. The newspaper came around 2:07, so they report that the fire started 2:07, but the family told me that it was 1:30-ish, 1:40 maybe. So 2:48 the first response. They take it, so while they're trying to resuscitate, and even more, the Rebbe's secretary lived across the street from the home. The Rebbe's secretary, Rabbi Groner, one of the family members, dashed across the street, begs him to contact the Rebbe, to ask the Rebbe what to do. The Rebbe says, don't worry, it'll be okay. There's no response while this is going on. Sure enough, by 2:48, as mentioned, the first respiratory response. With oxygen, of course, but not, okay. I don't want to get too graphic how the fireman did it. I heard from the neighbor that it was the worst of the worst. Tongue, everything, whoever knows medical terms, was terrible. They took the child to the local Kings County Hospital, and they started the respirator. The problem is, it's not working. Why? So I was shown the medical records actually. It said that it was combative.
What's that mean?
That the neshama lost nicht. The neshama doesn't want to come back. He's fighting, resenting the oxygen. Not only that, they have record in his bloodstream was 37.5% carbon monoxide from the smoke. And the eyes were dilated already. That means on the respirator he was goisising. The doctors had no Eitzah. The doctor and that some Matzala members, the doctor was Dr. Dietrich actually, I don't know if any of you know him, and Hatzola and Edgar Gluck called up the police department to try to get a helicopter to transfer the child to the Bronx, to the hyperbaric chamber. After a while, they finally pulled it off. He goes to the hyperbaric chamber in the Bronx by helicopter. Being pumped the whole time while being in the helicopter by a doctor named Dr. Gary Zuckerman. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's now in Princeton, New Jersey, and they went there. And there they started the program of hyperbaric chambers. Dr. Zuckerman says that they gave him oxygen 400% what a person needs to chase out the carbon monoxide and to give a new koyach, a new neshama. And they're trying, and he told the mother, later on I heard that he told the mother that when you were saying till him it worked, when you were stopping for a minute it didn't work. It was literally min hashamayim every step of the way. And they tried it again and again. I think they do usually 28-minute sessions. There was like 4 sessions of it. On and again, trying and trying and trying. Finally there was some pickup, and they brought the child back to Kings County to continue respirator later on. He was not awake yet. The next night, the following night, his father goes by the Rebbe to ask for a bracha personally. He goes by, the Rebbe silently tells him, Refuah Shleim Refuah Kreva. He didn't take it as a very strong answer. He thought it was standard, that how quick would that be? It didn't seem too stark, but okay. He goes to the back of the shul, and he came actually late then to that. The Rebbe said a sicha before the dollars, so he came late, so he started davening b'yechidus in the back. He got his dollars. Okay, he started davening. The Rebbe finished dollars, and the Rebbe then asked his masker, his secretary, to give him another. Then that night the Rebbe gave up $3 for additional $3. The Rebbe took those $3, put on the side of a siddur, and he aims for the back of the shul. As he's walking, he sees the father of the child. The father's a man of Kishma, so he can't answer B'dibur, but the Rebbe asked him, did you get for your son himself? Did you get for your son himself a set of dollars? So he's a man of Kishma, so he goes, no, So the Rebbe gives those $3 he put aside. He says, let your son put this in the pushka. He said, oh, okay. That, as we say, there's das andere alphabet. This is a total, this is already haftach already.
Different game.
Okay. The next day he goes to the hospital, and he's saying to him the whole time. So Tuesday night was Matzah Purim. Wednesday night he gets the dollars. Thursday night he's by his son's bedside, and at 2 o'clock in the morning he tells his wife, the Rebbe gave me dollars last night for him to put into the pushka. Those were the first words the child heard. He opens his eyes. Here's what his father has to say. His father tells him, the Rebbe told him, he takes the $3, puts it in the pushka, and he's back to square one. Not to the positive. He collapses again. He's back.
A relapse?
Seemingly. His father is... yeah. So his father said, no, he did what the Rebbe said. He put into the pushka. Maybe this is his last... Okay. This was 2:30 in the morning. 8 o'clock in the morning, the child opens his eyes again. And he starts moving. 8:40 actually, because 8 o'clock, the medical records even record, question vegetation, question brain damage. They don't know what's happening next, even if he wakes up. He opens his eyes, and he starts moving. So they start shouting, he's alive! So they needled him in to put him to sleep, and they started taking apart the respirator, that he doesn't need the respirator anymore, and he started reacting. Like 12:30 he woke up totally. Wakes up 12:30. Many things of his past he forgot many things. When he saw different things, it brought him back, but he remembered that the following Sunday is the Sunday before his birthday. Chassidim, the Sunday before their birthday, they would go by the Rebbe for dollars and ask for a bracha. Knowing that his whole Yeshua came from the Rebbe, he goes to the nurse while he's coughing up his black water from all the smoke inhalation and everything that was in his body, which actually the doctors were surprised that he could say any word. When they asked how he's doing, he says, fine, Baruch Hashem, and they thought he's going to say, bah, because they thought he's going to have to start, his life is starting again. He said, 1 second, this Sunday is the Sunday before my birthday. I would like to go to the Rabbi for dollars. He said, 1 second. You just got up from he says, we say, you just walked out of your grave. You want to? I said, with all due respect, you guys didn't do anything. The Rabbi did it. And therefore, I want to go. He said, but if you go, you're not getting therapy. And you know what it means not getting therapy? Because this child, when he would walk off the bed, he would collapse. He needed to learn how to walk again. To the fact, this was Friday morning, Matzah Shabbos for Havdalah, he was held like a baby. And he could only have hot soup because his stomach didn't work yet. It was like, but he's determined. And he's action, he was almost 9 years old, he was in action. So he tells the doctor, I don't care what. I don't need the therapy. I'll take care of myself. And he's pushing his parents. His parents agreed. And they signed him out. And sure enough, the following Sunday, only 48 hours after he got up, he was standing by the Rebbe. And the Rebbe's secretary, which was a neighbor, didn't know that he's going to be coming for the house, because 12:30 Friday afternoon on a Purim season time, it's not too close to Shabbos to know more reports. And there comes 12:30 when his parents said they want to have a meeting by the Rebbe, bring actually the child. And he's like, he says the child's name, this is it? Like out of shock. And he's told by the parents, yes. And he introduces him to the Rebbe, this is him. And the Rebbe gives him big brachas. And the Rebbe wishes the parents a lot of nachas from him. And he did not go back for therapy, and today's day and age, he walks quite fine. And for the Rebbe's birthday, Yiraf Nissen, a few weeks later, they brought the fire department, and the Rebbe gave them a big thank you. Just to end off on a silent note, this child sits before you today. Here I am. And if you want